Okay, you guessed it. Mike and I looked at this CV joint for RCV, and we felt it was really loose at some points. There was not a good feel to it at all. So basically, we just put it in the vise and took a mallet and a brass punched and knocked it right off. Here it is right here. So, and these have both been rebuilt. So I'll be.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. There's Cooter. He's with me today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Drinking coffee. So there's the old one. Now, here's how fortunate I am. Due to Dwayne's generosity, Dwayne had one of these laying around. Look at this, brand new in the go position. So fully greased, ready to rock. I just got to clean up this circlip and put that on there and put the stub shaft on, and we'll be back in business with basically a new end for the passenger side. So just kind of starting with a little repair here this morning. So here we go. You can see the circlip right on there. So this is really just a question of taking this and setting up the splines and hitting it with a rubber mallet, and it'll just slide in and lock into place. Pretty cut and dry. The line up. That's it.
There we go, in real time. There she is. She's on.
You think so? Think that's it?
That's it. They're bottomed out. Key is give it a couple whacks going the other way. Gentle whacks. Yep, she's on.
Yeah, now we'll get that boot on there and probably put more grease in it.
All right, there you go.
All right, terrific.
Circlip compressed, the axle went on. Sometimes you fight with those things. This one went pretty smooth.
So we'll have to compress that boot on and we can work that thing back and forth, but definitely better than what we had. And this thing will just work in and get better.
Oh yeah.
Terrific.
Get that thing ready to go back in when we get the front done.
Yes. All right.
Nice
Not a
work.
bad way to start the day. Thank you, Dwayne. All right, look at this, huh? Much better, just decent resistance, not loosey-goosey, not chattering.
Oh yeah. That's how it should be. Yeah.
So we're pleased with that. So we'll put that back over on the side, little 5-minute job taken care of. All right, so Mike took the nut off the washer. It's being very stubborn. He hit it with the air chisel. So we're just trying to force the pinion out. So that's what we're working on. Okay, you can see that the flange is off. You can see the seal right here. Everything's nice and dry in there, but it is being really stubborn. So we got some PB Blaster in there. We're gonna work on this pinion some more. Okay, you can see the pinion gear out for the rear end. Here's a look at the crush sleeve right there. The bearing, the slinger, and then the seal, which, man, did I have to work on that thing to get it out. Okay, you can see I got to take that race out right there and the one back on this side. I'll go around to the other side so you can take a look at that. Okay, you can see a little opening so that the oil actually, see this little indentation right here? So the oil actually gets slung and comes up in here. I don't know if my video is showing that well enough, but all right, 2 races. Okay, you can see the races were punched out. And what did that was, Mike has a set of these race punches. So you see the flat end right there, how it looks. And that allows you to catch a lip of the race right here and punch it out from each direction. So there we go. So the hardware that was in the rear axle is out. Okay, Mike brought to my attention that we were just making a comparison on the races, and the number on the race that came out for the inner race was M80 211. Then we look on the new one, M80 211. So just confirming that they match. I'll do the same thing with the with the outer race.
Nothing like doing your own gears. So Recon will tell you these things do not go in easy. You can see I got him with the 3-pound hammer and the race drivers. Once you get them started and they're squared up in the bore, they'll usually drive down in there pretty good. You can tell when they're in there. They bottom out with a solid thud. There's no mistaking it's in there all the way. So we're just getting to that point right now. The inner ones tend to be a little tight, but he's getting it.
Yeah, now look at that. So there he goes. Yeah, you can see that
the
thing.
video probably caught that. You can hear the tone.
Yeah, the
change.
tone changed. That thing is seated. Wow, nice job.
Give it a couple more whacks.
Yeah.
You can definitely hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. All right, I just drove that race in. I'm gonna let the doctor look at it. I think she landed nice. You can see all that's just aluminum from the piece that you use. We'll clean that all out of there, but let the doctor check it out and see if it's what he wants.
Yeah, there's one sitting in there. Yeah. So not maybe next week. Depends on the parts commission Scott. The bearing number will be the same.
Yes, M80. The large one is M80 2048.
So this is we get it to inches, 51 thousandths.
51 thousandths.
Yeah, all day long, 51.
All right. That's
So
what we're starting
gonna do
with.
is we're gonna go with this to start. We're gonna go with the setup bearing.
Drops right on. Boom.
Now we have a setup bearing for the outer also. I think it's this one, 88048, from the last JK I did,
Which was,
Bluebell.
yeah, your wife's.
Yep, 88.
All right.
So what I did too is I made an outer setup bearing.
So that
These are
drops on
not
too.
as tight a press fit as these,
Yeah.
but they, you still, when you put it together, you do have to crank this one on.
Yeah.
So in order to make it set up a little easier,
Yeah, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
There you
Okay,
go.
very good.
slap it together, let's see where we're at. Yeah.
So we'll just set that up. The ring gear, the only thing about the ring gear, came off nice and easy. You just have to be very carefully when it drops off to work it around that solenoid connector right there. We don't want to damage it. Anyway, we didn't have the right clamshell to fit this bearing. So you can see we rigged this little puller set up here to take this bearing off of the locker.
Generally, they're going in right behind the bearing.
Right, on the inner.
And if you just pull on the cage, you're going to destroy the cage.
Yeah, cage just
and these
folds.
don't fit anyway in
Yeah.
there. So
Now the other side will press off nice because it's got the gap, but there is no gap on the solenoid side, which makes Mike and I wonder, unless there's some special tool out there for JK lockers, are a lot of guys just reusing the bearing that's on the solenoid side. See, we should be able to, you can see there's a gap on this side right here to get behind it.
yeah.
So
normally
that'll
you run this with the race on.
yeah, so that'll you can see that fits nicely and it'll pull
fits
that
right
bearing
behind
off perfectly. But the bearing on the solenoid side on the JK locker, no gap for anything to get behind it. So
don't forget, this is a cast. It feels like it's cast iron spacer ring. So we're gonna flat file that. Make sure we don't have any burrs. That is just a spacer. Make sure you put this back on because it keeps the bearing
away from the
I guess it keeps this from moving away from the differential, and it wants to apply the force to locking it.
correct
It
yeah.
butts up to the back
Right,
side
because
of the bearing.
because as you remember, this plate goes that way about a half of an inch
So
when it
without
locks.
that, when you would go to hit lock, this would just walk off. Oh, you got that zip tied.
Yeah.
This is your electric shift solenoid. When you put power to it, it pops out, and these are the fingers that lock the diff.
Yeah, I think they call them the dogs, right? They just yeah, there it goes, just locked in.
And then you release it. And locked up sight, release. That's it. So when you put this back on, these rings go on there. See, See how it's got,
Those,
well, it doesn't have really anything, but these have to
those
be.
detents, I assume, go in
Yes.
these little.
So this one is free floating. The TJs are a little different. Same idea, just same but different. But these little detents have to line up and go in behind these dogs. And this is kind of your slip ring, so to speak, because this is staying stationary. This is turning with the diff. So that gives you a slip ring on here. Obviously, if this thing spun, so there's a mechanism on the side bearing cap that grabs this and keeps
Right.
the electric clutch from rotating.
That's that lock piece right here that stops it from rotating, that goes into the detent.
Right. So when that sits on here, this sits in like that.
Correct. Holds it in place.
And it doesn't take much force to hold this thing. It doesn't really want to spin too bad. You can see the order of how this thing is supposed to work.
So
The downside of the clutch side is there's no way to get the collar under the bearing.
yeah, this piece here, look at that. Beautiful.
Bearing comes off.
Once again, because
Theoretically reusable.
yeah, once again, because there was room to put the clamshell underneath it. The other side doesn't have that room. Just making sure there's no burrs at all of any kind. We did have it in the vise because obviously the ring gear is going to press up against that perfectly flat. All right, there's our 513 gear. Mike's doing the same thing, just making sure there's no burrs so that when this thing goes on the carrier.
You can see right here where it hit just a little bit of, you can see that shiny
Yes,
stuff?
right.
Now that might have been me just tipping the file a little bit. It's a good idea just to...
Just kind of crisscrossing 130 foot-pounds, Mike.
I usually like to hit them a second time, so we'll...
That's a great torque wrench.
Yeah, so that was 133 and a half.
Yeah.
Five.
Yep.
And
Gonna go rotational.
yeah, so I'm just gonna make sure we're all there. Okay, and back where we started.
Yeah.
Should be it.
We're over here at the press. As you know, the ring gear's all been torqued to the carrier. So then there was this piece right here. This is the piece that actually the solenoid throws it over and engages the dogs. So that had like 4 ears that just kind of lock in. So then the solenoid just fit right over it. Then you have this spacer. See the spacer right here? This is the side. Now again, you'll see that when this bearing gets pressed down, you'll see why this is problematic, because you have no way to get anything underneath this bearing to draw it up and off. But we did get it, but it was no joke. So that's where we are right now. We're just setting up this table. Okay.
Close the release valve.
You like that?
Yep.
Put a little tension on it. All right, a little bit of tension. Okay.
Okay. Clutch is all good still? 'Cause that's...
Yeah, and let's just double check now. So the spacer's on, the clutch is good, the pieces are in, and the bearing's going the right direction.
Yeah.
'Cause,
All important things. I put bearings on backwards.
Yeah.
Now watching the pressure gauge too. We're not even
Just
reading
kind of
it yet.
finding itself right now. You can see it sliding on there.
And we're gonna bottom it out.
Yeah.
And you'll know because I'll feel resistance, and you'll see
Should be getting pretty close.
you'll see the hydraulic pressure gauge start to go up, and now it's starting to climb.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it.
Like a couple tons of pressure on
Yeah.
there. We don't need a lot.
Okay.
We don't want to blow
Yeah.
the thing apart.
So once again, with this like this, I want to just talk to you why you can't press this off easily. There's nothing to. The space is so the tolerance from the inner race of this bearing is right up against this spacer. So there's, we got something underneath here, but all it would do is just shear off the cage. So anyway,
I'll show you too. The other very important thing to do in these bearings. Come over to my drawer of spacers here. Here's one that'll work. Notice how the spigot, I call it the spigot, I don't know what it's technically called, does not come through the race at all. So when we flip this over, we have to set this on something, because what we don't want to do is push on this outer cage. You can see how if you look to the side and you run your finger, the cage is the highest part.
The cage is the highest part, right?
So what we'll do is I keep all these old inner races for spacers.
So that when we flip it and press the other bearing on, we don't damage the.
Right.
We don't damage this bearing
You could just go on this inner. So I find something that fits.
Yeah.
Where this still spins free.
Right. Makes sense.
And we're gonna set it on this.
Yeah, makes sense.
When we flip it. So we know that that's still free. We're not going to damage that bearing. And what we'll do is we'll come over onto this press block because that's
Okay.
we don't care about the hole in the middle.
All right.
And then rinse and repeat.
Okay.
So what we'll do is
Yeah, let me put the phone down and we'll set this one up.
okay, we're there.
All right, 2,000 pounds?
Yeah, a couple things. It starts at 5. So
Yeah, and you felt it maxed out?
yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah,
You
okay.
can feel the press stop.
Terrific. Both bearings pressed on.
Okay.
Okay, using the, we started with the original shims on the left and right, as well as the pinion depth shim. And we just put the carrier in for the first time. And we're just trying to see where we are, get a ballpark here on how we're doing. So Mike's just setting up the gauge. Okay, for starters, our backlash was too much, almost doubled. We're looking for somewhere from 6 to 9. 9 was on the high side, of course. We ended up with 13. So we know we want to tighten that up and bring the carrier that way in towards the pinion. But we also thought let's put some paint on the gears and run this thing. And Mike wants to see how it looks.
Just a slight variation in how they make the gears. Now the overall clearance, in other words, I measured what was in here. I added 10 thousandths to this side, subtracted 10 thousandths from this side. So we, in effect, moved the ring gear closer to the pinion. We just put it back in. Rick painted the gears.
Yeah, so the gears are painted. I'm gonna give this a spin and see how she looks. So stand by.
We'll see what happens here. Let's keep filming. You want to keep filming? I'll hold some pressure on it.
All right.
You all can see this in real time. So what I do is I like to hold a rag up against it and put some resistance on there. Now one thing you'll notice we did leave off was the little lock plate, the anti-rotation plate for the clutch pack. We've already measured the backlash now. Go around one more time, brother. All right, there you go, right there. All right, so you're seeing this as we're seeing this.
Spotlight's right here.
Try to get a good camera angle on it. I gotta see it too.
Definitely in the center of the, wow.
So we're pretty good there. I'm gonna say,
Wow,
I'm trying to get a good camera angle and
that's
trying to
really
look at it
innocent.
myself. All right, so we're gonna stop filming here so I can kind of look at that with the right light. And I can get you a good shadow. Kill that one for a second. There we go, that's a little. All right, so we're covering most of the tooth. And I kind of like that. We're gonna shut this off for a minute. I want to look at that. Yeah, a lot of times they just fall out.
Using the stock, the stock ones have always come out easy peasy with those large shims. But anyway, we love the pattern here. We have 6 thousandths of an inch. Checked it in multiple spots for our backlash. So we're gonna take the carrier out and then we'll be redoing the pinion then and putting the real deal in and trying to set the
correct bearings.
correct. So pretty excited because things were kind of struggling with us today, and Mike did some math and hit this out of the park. So we're pretty stoked.